Good. We pick from where we left off. Today we want to create the order screen, and I want to pick from there. So we have made some progress. Let's log into this application and see where we pick from. I'll go to users, pick one of the user's credentials, like this phone number, then go to the application. The password is 12345. Log in. So we have the dashboard. The data is hard-coded, but at least we have managed to connect the login and the registration. Let's leave the dashboard for now. Let's go to cars. We need to list all the cars that we are selling here. Currently, this is what we have inside cars, just a text view with the word cars. Our intention in this recording is to list all the cars you are selling right here. That could be products depending on the project that you are working on. So let me go to my database here. I have created a table called cars. Let me look at the structure. Under the structure, we have car ID, ID, which is just a column for indexing really, or I can use it as a primary key. We have the car registration, which is the number plate, the model, make, features, images, year of manufacture, price, and the date when the car was added. I randomly added some 3 cars. You can see the details, the price, the features, and everything. So I will test this on Postman and see whether I'm able to read these cars. Let me clear this. You can see when I read this, I'm getting back the list of the cars. So I want us to pick from there then. I created a script here that just requires the connect.php. We already have that, and then has an SQL query here, and then creates an array of rows for each car. And then while there is data here to be fetched, we will be storing it here, and for each row we will add it inside rows. So you can imagine by the end of this while loop, inside rows we will have all the cars that we have in the database. We will encode that into JSON and then send it back to any application that tries to access this particular script. So that's the script, and you already know this, the location of all the scripts. We are keeping them inside XAMP, htdocs, and the project folder. For us, it's car sales. You could have a different one. Now this is the script, get cars. When you call get cars, you're definitely going to get that list of cars. Now, let's get to Flutter, and see then how we can implement and display all those cars here. First, let's start by coming up with the widget that will host the cars. That should be a column can do. Inside column, we have inside column we want to have a list view. Really, list view would do. List view. So list view.builder, we have used this before. Then we need to specify what the item builder is here. Where is scaffold? This is column. Okay, let's sort this first before we proceed. Let me go back, because this will continue to generate errors if we don't sort it. So we need one for the scaffold, and the scaffold one has that. Now inside here we can put the column. This is likely to be a lengthy video because we have a number of things to achieve. List view dot builder. Now let's think about the item. Inside a list, the list view, there are many items. So how do we create each and every item? I just clicked on Control and Spacebar, and I have this option. Of course, I'll use this, and we've used it before. And then write return, and here we can return what we want each row inside the list view to display. So for now, I will just return a simple text with some message. Let me write car 1, and because of the return statement, then I will use that. Now, inside list view builder, we always need to specify the number of items. So item count, that one. And then for list view, it's always good to set shrink wrap to true, but also wrap the entire list view with a widget called expanded, so that we don't have issues of running out of the display, the available screen. Expanded. That's a widget that allows it to occupy all the available space. And you can already see inside cars now we have 5 items. Of course, the rows are not well developed, but at least we have that. Now, let's focus on getting the data from the server. So we're going to come up with a function here, function outside the build function. So where does the build function end? Here. So just, build function is just one bracket before you get out of the class. So right here, I want us to come up with a function that reads from the server. So let's call that method getCars. And right here, we will put the code to get all the cars. Get. We need to use HTTP to do this. So I will say final response. And we have done this is equals to HTTP dot. We don't have HTTP defined. So right here, we write import HTTP. And please remember, if this is not available, you need to make sure HTTP package has been imported or has been added to your YAML file, and you click this back to class. So we always have to put it as I have done. So I'll go here, and since we are using a get request, how did I know that this is a get request? Because what I'm using inside XAMP here is get request. I'll now copy this URL and put it here. Where's my Flutter code here? Put it here. So we say URI.pass. Then we put the URL here, semicolon here. Then remember we said localhost refers to the computer or to the device where the code is executing. So when we run this on emulator, the emulator will be trying to look for the server within itself, and that's not what we are doing here. So we need to change this to 10.2.0.0 and confirm whether that is the correct one. This is a special IP that makes the emulator to look for the server within the machine or the computer where it is running. You can also use the computer's IP address if you know it, but if you're running this from a cPanel, you can use your domain right there. Good. A few more things. We need to await here, and we've talked about it, and therefore that makes this method async. If we're going to await, then this is async. Then we are going to, in fact, at this point, we can just read what the server brings back. We can read what the server brings back, so we can use print response.body, and see whether we have the server reading anything or bringing back anything. Let's execute that. I'm waiting for it to run. Let me get the password for this user. So I'll just pick some random user here, the phone number, copy, put it here, and the password is 12345. Okay, I got 2 cars, and okay, we need to call this method. Meanwhile, before I go there, we have not just confirmed that this is 10.020. Zero 10.022, right? That's a special address you shouldn't forget. It allows the emulator to look for the server in the host computer. So we need to call this function within the build method here. So I'll just write get cars, and I can just navigate to another screen as I observe what is happening here. And I think it's already reading, Then I go to cars, and you can see it's already printing the content from the URL, right, our server here. That's good. Now, this function, when triggered, will read all the cars. So the other thing I can do is to go to my app bar here, where I have the refresh icon. I can also put that there so that anytime I click on this refresh icon here, again, I'll be able to read from the server within the refresh icon. Look at that. Anytime you trigger that, it reads, because there are times you might need to refresh that. Let's continue here. How do we get this cache to appear here? That's what we need to really think about. Now, this response, first, we need to convert it to, okay, first let's read this. So before we read, we always must check, is response equivalent, response.status code, whether this is equivalent to 200, because this means that the server has responded. There was no error on the side of the server. So if this status code is 200, that's when we're going to process. Otherwise, we can just use a snack bar, get.snack. Okay, let me import this. And now we can, so that we don't have to do a lot of typing, snack bar. Let me write server error. Error while reading cars. We're done. In case it returns any other value, then we will that will be displayed that this is the error. This is the 200 we are talking about, status code, that indicates we are successful in terms of accessing the server. Now, what happens when we get 200? Then we can now read this. So I just write var server data is equals to JSON encode, JSON decode, then we pass server, response dot body, and I think we've done this before. So now the entire body has been decoded, and when we want to use that, we can use server data. There's one thing we need to understand here, and at this point, the kind of data we are receiving here represents a car. This is one car, this part. This is one car, this is another car, and we actually have 3 cars. Essentially, and in most programming languages, we need to convert that data into a class so that an object of that class represents a single car. We need to, a class encapsulates everything, the properties of that kind, any methods, if any, into a single object. And therefore, I know we haven't used models, and that's where we are going. We are going to create a model called car, and then we proceed from there. So I'll call this car model. Then class car model. And now we need to define all these properties here. these properties, ID, car reg, model. Inside this, I'll just copy one of this and put them in my code as I create those properties. So right there, I'll declare them as dynamic because as we read data from the server, sometimes the form and format changes. ID, car reg, model. If I was doing this, I would just push this to the to to AI like ChatGPT, and it would extract this for me. But just so that we get it right and you understand what you're doing, let's painfully type each and every of this date added. Now I don't need this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't need this now. Next, we create a constructor to receive these values. And we know that a constructor has the same name just as the class. And this constructor will use named parameters. And I think we've done this before. So let's look at what I will do here. I will write required this dot id, comma. So I have to repeat this 9 times. So I just copy this. Let's copy this and repeat this 9 times and then just change the variable names. 4, 5, 6, 7. I need 2 more. Please don't forget to use this keyword because it gets the value from this and then assigns it to this. Let's change this. This is actually ID. This is correct. This is model. This is make. After make, we go to features. Feature. Allow me to use features so that it's consistent with what I have in the database. Okay, image. I'll show you how I handle images here. I know you could be curious about that. Then price, and lastly, date added. So this constructor, when given these values, it will create an instance with this particular constructor. There's one more thing that is we need to do with this class, and that is to modify these parameters so that they are not empty, but we read data from the JSON string, this JSON string here. We need to read data. And therefore, we're going to create a very special method or constructor, special method called factory, which is invoked at the time of creation so that it can modify any values of the constructor. So factory car model dot from JSON. This is just our own method. We want to use it. Then we say map, then some variable like JSON here. And then here we will return. In other words, we want to modify the values of car model just before they are returned. When you select car model, the rest of the other values will be brought in because that's the constructor. Let's make some change here. String, comma, dynamic. Look at what this means. It means from the server, or the JSON string that we will receive has 2 values, the string and a value which is dynamic. String represents the keys, this key, ID, car reg, but the value here is what we have used dynamic here to represent, and it could be any value. That's why we're using dynamic. And remember the advantage of using dynamic? If the compiler infers that to be an ID and later it changes to a string, there will be no problem. So now, where will these values come from? We will delete this. Rather, we could retain it there and use this JSON, this one, because it's the object that carries that string. Then close this. And I think An easier way would be, let me first save this to format it. I'll just copy this all over. I want to move first, so I'll copy this and then I'll close everything later. Okay, so these are the repetitive tasks. As a developer, you can have AI do this for you. So these keys are important and they need to always match what you have in what the API is bringing back. In other words, whatever I write here for carreg, this key here should match what I have here. If there is a mismatch, that value will not be read. Perfect. Now we have this. This is now what we will use to convert whatever data we read from the API into a car. And that's why we are calling it a model. It models, or it gives us a car from that data that is just coming from the server. And models are very important and used in many languages. Now, how do we convert that data here into a car? So let's proceed from here. So here we could say server data dot map, because we have to read a car one by one. So I'll just write car here, and then right here add this. It's a function to map, and then call the function from car model, the one that we've just designed, the factory, not this one, car model dot from JSON. So you need to import this. It's the first time you're using it here. So car model from JSON, and then we will pass this car. Where is this car coming from? This car here. Then close this. It's a function. Then to list, because we need a list here. This is a function. Converts everything to list. By the way, at this point, we already have cars now. This, let me say var cars. This already gives us a set of cars because we've taken every car, passed it through JSON, converting it into cars, and then we change it into list. Good. Let's do one more thing. Of course, we know that this function here is a feature, and if we have a problem, we might need to specify that, because as long as you're using a sync, then the return type here is a feature, but that does not force us to specify the type. Let's print cars and see what we get here. Print cars. Cars. Okay, I'll open this, then click on this. Yeah, it says an instance of a car model, instance of, we have 3 cars, but of course we are not accessing any property. So we can just check the length here really. What is the length of this cars? Or rather, what is the length of the list that is coming from the server? Let's see whether we are able to get that. Yes, and we have 3 cars in the database, and you have seen that. Now, how do we get these cars, these ones, into this list view? At least they are inside the database. So when we have to answer that, the question of state comes in. So look at what I will do. I will develop another controller class here, which will take care of when the data, the app is done reading the list of cars, car controller. We've used controllers before, and we know we are using GetX. So class car controller extends GetX controller. And this is very simple. We only have 2 variables. One is var let me call it car list, the list of cars. And we need to initialize it at the beginning. So look at what we will do. Because this is a special class, we will just write car model, and say that it's an empty list. Again, we need to import car model. We haven't used it here. Now we need another function which updates this list when we are done reading from the server. Update car list. You need to be careful when you're reading models. We might be forced to specify the data type, unlike when we are reading just simple variables. So I'll assume the variable I'm using is called cars. This is a function that will update car list. So look at what we'll do. First, let's clear car list in case there were any cars. You see, like when you refresh and you had not done this part, when you refresh, you will just add cars, so your list will have duplicates. So anytime we call this method, first it starts by clearing the cars from the list. Then after that, car list dot, there's a method called assign all. If you add all, it will just keep adding. So assign all replaces what is already there. So we are done. But there is one more thing we need to worry about. We need to find a way of tracking when the list is loading and when it is done loading. So I will just have a variable called loading cars. As we start, we set it to true. And then observe it. Please, I had forgotten this. This one will also need to observe it so that we are notified when the list changes. So when we call this class, immediately it starts loading. But when we have this list updated, then we stop loading. Value set it to false. Get our controller is ready. So look at what I will do here. Here, once I have my cars, I'll now convert this. I will now call that class within the controller. So let's declare an object of the controller class here. Car controller is equals to put, this is called dependency injection, get.put. We repeat the same class car controller, and that's it. Come here within this function, pass this class to that class function within the controller class. So car controller dot update car list. It's expecting cars, and we've already passed it here. This one, the one here, we pass it here. What that means, now immediately this is done reading the cars, it notifies the controller, and then the controller stops, changes this variable to false, so that we know that this is not loading anymore. Good. But now, how do we display here? Because we've not yet displayed anything there. To do that, we go back to our list view here. First, we shouldn't just have some random value for the size, the number of items. We can now use car controller.car list. What the list of that car, or of the list in the controller, how many cars does it have? We can read from that. Number two, this car here, we can read the list that is on in the controller class. So look at what I will do. This is string interpolation. I just want to get some values from that. So car controller dot car list, the list of cars, and we have many cars in that list, so I will use index variable. This is always applied by the item builder, so that I start reading from the 0th car, and for each car I could choose one of the properties to display. For now, let me just focus on the model. So let me refresh. Of course, now that we are using the text, we need to wrap some variables here with OBX and we can just wrap the entire of this with OBX because it is needed by this, it is needed by this. Everywhere you are using a variable defined in the what? In the controller class, then you have to, a variable, not the method, a variable, then you have to wrap that code with OBX. So let's wrap this body with OBX right here. OBX, and we have done this before. Fat arrow operator, meaning return this. And then at the end of column, we need another parenthesis to close that. Right. So let's see whether we are getting any error. Error, this list dynamic is not subtype of list car model. No problem. So let's see where that is coming from. And it's definitely coming from here. This could generate some problems. So I'll do this and convert it into a list. I just say as list. Let me refresh. Good. Good. So we now have Toyota, Nissan, Honda coming from our database here, these cars here. Of course, we don't just want to display the name, and therefore we need to improve this, what we are returning. We shouldn't return a simple text. Let's return a more defined representation here for every car, allowing us to display all those details. So let me return a row. Row has children, and inside this row I will have a number of things. First, I want to have a column. Or rather, let me have a what? Yes, a column. Column. Inside this column, I'll have children. Just want to find a better way of coming up with a neat car representation here. So the row, looking at how to visually design this row. Inside the row, we have we first want to have an image. So here I can have image, network image, image dot network, because remember this is giving us an image. Each car has an image, so we need to be able to display that. Then we now go to the column. Inside the column, we can have text for the car number plate. For now, I'll just put some random number here, KB something, just so that I look at the layout. We also need to have the price of the car. Okay, so you can see the image, the number plate for each car. And below here, we can have so we have a list of some information, so we need to see where to fit each of this. And I think the model and the make can be part of this. So I'll join this here, model, make, and everything here. But then I can have the price below this. Just look at what I'll do here. Some price here. Okay, you can see that. And then okay, let's first work with that. This image here, let's give it some properties so that it does not become this big. The width, can fix it to 50. I can actually comment on this for now so that I work on the others. Okay, yes. I want to join this one here, the column, the first here, so that this includes a number of things. Because cars don't have names, then what we can do is to combine a number of properties here. Car controller dot car list dot index. You know that by now. We first start by the registration number. Then this one, we will join it again with the model and make some space. Model and make. I think that's a good identifier. The car number plate and yeah, KCA 350. This Toyota, I think we're missing. We're using model 2 times. This is make. Okay, so that's a good identifier. The price is at the bottom. Let's have this column, main axis alignment. Go to main axis alignment dot start so that the price and are at the same place. All right, we also need to do that here. Main axis alignment dot start. All right. Now, we have the car plate, we have this and this. Maybe before the price, we can provide some brief description of the car, if any. So text. I just write here features. And then call this car controller dot car list index dot features. Remember, this is from the model. This is why models are this important. Okay, you have that. Okay, I actually feel that the price can come in here on the extreme side of this. So look at this. I wrap this again with a row. This one. Wrap with the row. And then after this, because this is now inside its own row, this one, I will put the text for price. Text field for price. And I will wrap it in this manner. Okay, car controller dot car list into index dot price. Look at that. But I don't want it to just appear here without any spacing. And I can't even determine how much space that would be. I want to push it on the extreme end. So I'll use another widget called spacer, which pushes it to the extreme end. Okay, it's gone to some unknown destination. Okay. Main axis size. Main axis size. Let me set it to minimum. Okay, let's leave this for now. This spacer is not achieving what I want. Okay. Okay, I understand why that might not be possible. Good. So for now, I'll just use main axis alignment here. See the farthest it can go. Main axis. Main axis alignment. Main axis alignment. Space between, space evenly, space around. Let me use space between and see what I got. It's not moving. I think this is constraining the available space. Let me main axis size dot max. See whether it makes more room for what you want to do. Okay, let's remove this. Let's remove this so that we have the simplicity that we need. Good. Let's use just size box for now. Width maybe 30. But we can also add the currency here. And it would even be wise to call some function that can format this code. Good. So that you have a currency format, a comma after the 3 digits. Let's bring in the image, so that we put it here. Now, inside my database here, I have images. But where are the actual images stored? To answer that, we can go to the root folder of our project right here and create another folder called car images. And right here, that's where we will keep our cars. So let's look for a car and put one of the images here and see what happens. I'll just download that online, car image. Okay, really anything. This one, save. I want to save it at the right place. Okay, I need a JPEG or JPEG, JPG, or PNG. These are the formats I want to use. Let me see this, save image. So this is JPEG, so this is okay. Where is our project root folder? Drive C, XAMP, htdocs. Where is that? htdocs, car sets. I'll save this car inside car images. Please note that the name of the car must match where we want it to be. For example, we assume that image refers to this car in our database. This car. So I'll take this name or make sure the name matches. So I'll go rename that car. It was JPEG. Rename it to this name. So those names have to match. The names of the cars here should be exactly the names that you have on the database. Okay, so put that there. Oh, this is GIF. We have a problem. We need JPEG or PNG. Let me see what this is. They are not the formats I'm looking for. Okay, let me pick this. Okay, I have one JPEG, so that's okay, at the right place. And that is the name I have used in the database. So back to Android application. Let me finish up with this now. So what do? We release this, but here we need to get the same URL we are using here, except that this is not a script now. So I'll copy this. I did not include the script. Put it here. And the car folder. This, we have car cells, and inside car cells we have car images. So that has to be added to this path, car images. Then plus, we now need to add the image name, and that will come from this controller. We don't know it at runtime. That will be added here. So let me add that part here, and then it will give us the car name to be fetched. Remember to use the right property here, which is image. Now let me run this. Says failed. Okay, let's see whether this is correct. HTTPS car cells, car images, car controller index, image. Let's check the name again. Inside this folder, we have JPEG, KCA 345A. We go here. Is it JPEG 350? I think we hadn't saved that. Let's refresh again. Yeah, you can see the car here. Here, you can play with the size, the width. You can now move to 100. You still have some age state there. You can manage that. I think 150. That is big and pushing content away. So you have that. I don't want to go into fixing the look here because I think you can bold this, you can do all that. But basically this is what I wanted us to look at. For the sake of making this look good, I'll just copy the same car here because I don't want to add all the images. So this is what you can do to really make that list appear here from the server. And there you go. You can add a button to buy, supposing you are selling raw. This is the last thing in the raw. So a button, material button right here. You can reorganize the entire look and feel. So two things are important on pressed. Can leave it empty for now. And a label, I think it's child, yes, can be text view by now. It's moving on the extreme side. I can actually get it below the raw here. So just below this 900, I can have it here. You can reorganize the look and feel. Okay, I left something. Needed to carry all of this and put it here. So now every row can have that button. And since this is material button, you can specify the color. Color, main color. I know previously we have used elevated button, but material button is also possible. So you can see how you can make this more appealing, and you can see this now works. If you add a car again in the database, you expect it to be pulled here. I'll just copy this. This is KBX AA, whatever values. You can also consider displaying this year of manufacture somewhere. It's an important parameter depending on what is important about the project that you're working on. Refresh here. Now you have that fourth car added. It's here. This is now fetching the cars from the listed. You can click on the buy button here. Here you can add the logic to add this car to orders table. So I want us to stop there and see whether you can implement this. Thank you.